Hi everyone, welcome back to my podcast, The Paragraph Challenge. And again with me today is Lucy. So Lucy and myself are collaborating over the coming few weeks, and in September we'll have a new program to help parents and adolescents. So today we are talking about, I suppose, the relationship between young adults and parents. And I'm going to let Lucy start off because this is one of our areas of expertise.
Yeah.
Welcome again, Lucy.
Yeah, good morning, Anne-Marie. I'm Lucy Cronly. As said before, I'm a life coach. One of the areas that I love looking at is the whole idea of the essence of adolescence. It's work done by Dan Siegel, and he talks about all the really smart bits and the magic about being a teenager. And I really like the idea of embracing the magic of teenagers because there's great magic in them, there's great energy, there's great zest for life. And it's how do we engage with that as parents?
Yeah.
Because it's a tough challenge for us because we go from being, as we said in one of our podcasts before, they go to the recycling centre with you. They'll go anywhere just to hang out with you, just because you're so cool.
They'll sweep the floor if you want to find very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. All those things.
You're right, because I mean, I love teenagers anyway, but I hadn't actually thought about what the words you just used, the essence of adolescence. But I had a bunch of Spanish girls staying with me a few weeks ago, 4 of them. And before that, I had some Germans, and they brought great life to the house because there's nobody else living here full time, only me and my husband. But like they come in and they're chatting away, their music's going, and it kind of takes you back to it took me back to when my kids were teenagers, and I'd forgotten that like my daughter would have one type of music going in one room and my son in a different room, and the place becomes very quiet when you don't have teenagers. Yeah, a lot of the time people think about, I suppose, a lot of negative things about teenagers. I mean, I like kids of all ages, and I do love teenagers because they're very engaging. And I love that you have that the essence of adolescence, because I think a lot of parents, they forget that there is something. Like, they will challenge you, but like otherwise we'd be all sitting there bored, wouldn't we? With each other.
That's the thing. I mean, if they were to come to the recycling centre with you for the rest of their lives and be as excited about that, how would they ever get the space to start to do something different? So I think it's about looking at, what starts to happen them. So there's the 0 to 12, say that's kind of that age where they think you're fabulous, but then they move from 12 to 24, and that's really the next stage along. And looking at that point, they're looking to grow their own thinking. They're looking to grow their own space. They look at like the essence of adolescence, the ES in adolescence is for the emotional spark that they have. And that's a little bit about what you were talking about, of that high energy for life. And I mean, the noise that teenagers can make. Is just,
I mean, they are noisy.
It's kind of amazing.
But it is. And I mean, it's a big contrast though, because I remember when, like a few years ago, I'd go to my parents' house or my parent-in-law's house, and I'd go, their house are very quiet. And now I'm going, gosh, my house is very quiet. So I always have the radio on because I'm just not. If I'm reading a book or something, I like quiet, but I prefer the quiet of the garden where you can hear birds and stuff than just total. I don't like silence. I mean, that probably says something about me, but I think silence for a while is okay, but you don't want to live your whole life in silence. And I think, they bring it. They're
the
vibrant.
Energy. It is. It's that vibrancy and that energy. And I mean, I think, the upside of that vibrancy and energy is all the giggles and the laughter and the fun and the energy and the engagement and, a group of teenagers together and the noise they can make and all that kind of stuff. And the downside of it can be the moodiness that comes with teenagers, because that's a part of all that emotional sparking piece as well. It's that high energy and that low energy and the flipping it all around and everything's super intense. So that's just a part of it. And I think for us as parents, sometimes what we try to do is we try to manage that into where we are, into the silence of where we are, and try and make it more level. But actually, when we embrace it, give it space and let it happen, and then say, well, look, it can happen up until, kind of a certain time at night. You can play your music, you can do your thing, but then let's negotiate a kind of community space for all of us where we can all live comfortably and go to sleep and go to bed, and all those different things. So, and then it's about looking at the SE part of the essence, which is social engagement. So that's where they start to move away from us as parents, and they want to hang out with their friends, and they want to spend time with their friends. And the upside of that is, developing their own way and place in the world, and figuring out how they relate to peers, looking at what are the new energies, the new thinkings, what are those things that are there. And the downside of that can be a peer pressure.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, the funny thing about it is, as parents, the only part of it that we see is the peer pressure and the danger. The only part of it that teenagers see is the excitement and the fun and my best friends and all of those things. That's what they see. So we can end up in polar opposite corners to each other when all we see is the danger of peer pressure, and all they see is the excitement and us holding them back. So is there a way of kind of meeting in the middle with that kind of stuff?
So I think that, and I think that's what we're trying to develop in this new program, isn't it? A space where they can like meet together in a safe space, have conversations, appreciate each other's point of views, and like each other's, I suppose, abilities and talents, and because our kids are not little carbon copies of us. They don't necessarily have the same interests as us, even, especially because the world is evolving so quickly.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's the setting of the status quo. They kick back against that.
Yeah.
But that's how we evolve as humans, and the people that hold that, I can see a different way of doing this, is that 12 to 25-year-old age group. Like, in the last part of the essence is CE, and that's looking at creative exploration, and that's looking at seeing new ways of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. Because so I mean, we need new ways, don't we?
We do. We need new ways of doing things. I mean, like, in a huge amount of, I have it written down here, and I'm just going to actually, because I wrote it down when we were talking, they're saying the thrill and passion of discovery and the reality that most innovations in art, music, science, and technology emerge from the adolescent mind.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of really famous people like Beethoven and all, they were all,
that age group.
Adolescents, that age group, but they didn't have, I suppose, the same amount of pressures as kids nowadays have.
They didn't.
They were focusing on, what they were good at. And the same with I was having that discussion about with my husband actually yesterday about, years ago, before formal education, people studied under masters. So like Leonardo da Vinci, they studied under art masters, and but he used both sides of his brain because he was a very good innovator as well as an artist. But now we expect kids, I suppose, to be experts in so many things that they're not actually interested in, which causes a lot of frustration as well. So I think it's harder nowadays, even though there's so much more opportunities, a lot more is expected of them. They can't just decide, well, actually, I know I'm 13, I've got this great idea, I know, I can be a great engineer, so I don't have to do all this other stuff in between, So
but there's that balance then, isn't there, between the rote learning and, kind of that imaginative, creative stuff. Like, and the way I kind of think about that, I think about the times tables. We all hate the times tables and having to learn them. But for the fundamentals of lots of different things in your life, having the basics of your times tables is actually useful.
Yes, so absolutely, because it speeds up when you're trying to figure out.
Yes, it does. You don't have to redo it every time, or you don't have to.
7.
Exactly.
I'm nearly there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about having the kind of the basics of rote learning, which is a useful base to grow the creative aspect of what you're thinking and doing. And it's also that, school may not be the place for all your creativity. It may be in music, it may be
Yeah,
in art, it may be in something more functional, whatever that may be.
yeah,
It's about, where, and that's back to, like we were talking about before, what fills your bucket of happiness? So how do you
absolutely.
balance that out? So how do you do what you need to do, but also find spaces that you
For all
feel
the stuff
you
you love. Yeah,
belong, and for all of those passion projects as well.
yeah,
And I suppose that's the other part of it, is it's the novelty seeking that's in young people. And again, it's looking at, you know, they're looking for something new, something exciting, something fun to do. And as parents, all we see is the danger.
yeah.
But the funny thing about the whole idea of the essence of adolescence is that as we get older, there are busy times in our lives as parents when we're looking after our kids and we're
Mhm.
managing work and we're managing homes and all that kind of stuff. But as we get that bit older and some of those pressures start to wane, we're actually going back to seek out purposely the essence of adolescence
Oh
and the
yeah.
ideas
I mean,
around that.
that is
To,
me.
to actually,
Because
yeah,
I love
to
fun. I get
reinvigorate.
very bored. So I mean, I'm going on holidays to Marrakesh, somewhere I've never been, because I like to go
Yeah.
somewhere different. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And my husband, oh yeah, do you think that's safe? Mom's going, yeah, of course it's safe. But I mean, when you get older, you can't constantly worry, like the way
Yeah.
teenagers don't. If you keep worrying, you never. My husband always slags me. He says I should have a yellow jacket sometime because I'm going. Should you, oh, be careful there. But and then I'm thinking, I was not like that when I was rearing my own children. But maybe
Yeah.
because when you're in the role of,
But
you're
your role is
looking after
different,
someone
isn't that?
else's children, you
Yeah.
have to be more conscious of the dangers. Now, my students are very energetic, and I have a large garden, and I let them do basically whatever they want within reason, and as long as
Yeah.
they're not going to kill themselves. But like they're jumping on the trampoline, and then I see, oh, they're wrestling, and I go, no, 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 wrestling. I mean, we do it all the time. I go, yeah, but if somebody gets injured, it'll be my fault.
Yeah.
But you are right. I can see now that my kids are grown, I'm going, yeah, I need to get back to that person. You
Yeah.
obviously can't get back. You can't get back the years, but you can find the joy, I think, and like you said,
Yeah.
the essence, and
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's about when there's space. Do you know what I mean? There isn't space when your kids are small and your life is busy and you're trying to keep them safe. And if
Yeah.
you're kind of in that danger zone of trying new
Mhm.
things and doing unsafe
Yeah.
things, when they're messing around with that as well,
No,
you know,
you need to know when
it's
to be a parent. And as I
exactly.
remember Jerry Ryan used to say, you're a parent, you're not their best friend. Like
Yeah.
you can be friendly, and obviously your kids are your friends, but you're still in the role as a parent. And if you start out,
Yeah.
I mean, I've come across some people like that. Yeah. And it's not a safe space for the
Yeah.
kids then.
Exactly. And your own kids are never going to think you're cool. Somebody else's kids might think you're cool, but your
Oh,
own
well,
kids
I mean,
very rarely do.
apparently my husband has always been cool, so I don't know why that is, but I probably spent more time with him. But the
Yeah.
friends always go, oh, your dad's so cool. I was
Yeah.
going, but anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that the teenagers are great, and you just have to
Yeah.
find
Yet they
happy
have that
place.
magic brain that sees the world in such a beautiful new way. And it's back to again what we talked about before, which is that wisdom that's in that teenage brain when they can look at something and see it differently. They
Yeah,
can see it better, they can see it fixed, they can see it repaired, they can see it managed, they can see it working more smoothly. So it's like, how do we engage with them and create a space for them to be able to talk about those things, to be able to engage their own wisdom and to find that and not get in the way of that process happening,
yeah,
but to actually share it with them, so to ask them and be curious about how they see the world, to be curious about what they have to say.
yeah.
And
Actually,
sometimes the very best thing you can do is just shut up and listen,
listen. Yeah, I think so. Sometimes, like, because sometimes they're not really looking for an answer; they're just looking for you
No,
to pay attention.
yeah, but you can learn so much
Yeah, you
from them,
can. Yeah, you're right. I learned a lot from my teenage
yeah,
students, and my daughter, who's 21, I actually learned a ton from her. I mean, she's like
yeah.
she just has a lot of wisdom that I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
Within. But I was talking to a lady recently who was very stressed about her daughter, who's only 14, because the daughter is so concerned about the whole planet, about the
Yeah.
wars and the environment, and so that's very overwhelming, and the mom couldn't understand. Like, I suppose we're a lot older, and you go, well, I can manage this. I can, do all my recycling, blah, 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 blah. I can't worry about the whole, there's not enough space in my brain for the whole world.
Mhm.
But I suppose as a teenager, you haven't developed those skills, and like it all, like, this child is depressed at the thoughts of the future.
Yeah.
And so that's why the mom came to chat to me. And it is very difficult space, because if you don't, but like you said, it's about sitting down and having a
Yeah.
conversation and saying, okay, let's look at the first thing that's bothering you. Then
Yeah.
look at the next, rather than looking at everything as a huge one big problem, because it's the things she's concerned about are multiple.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing, it's lots of things, and like how
But it's also lots of things out of her control.
exactly, that's what
Like I remember when I was younger, and the big thing to worry about was nuclear war. And I remember the idea of the big red button that somebody could push at any minute. And the fear of that big red button being pushed, and about the world being destroyed, and what were we going to do, and how were we going to manage to actually look after that. And yet I had absolutely no control.
No, I
over
mean,
that.
we weren't even in either of the countries where the red buttons were. I have to
Exactly.
say, I did not worry about that very much, Lucy, but I might have if I lived in Russia or America.
Yeah.
But everybody's brain,
Yeah.
works completely differently. Yeah, and this child actually comes from an area where there was a war, so the situation is slightly different.
Yeah.
And teenagers do worry about a lot of things, like you said, that
They
they don't
do.
realize are not in their control. And I suppose
Yeah.
that's another thing that, like, we can address in the program, is like, how do you help them, come to terms with, I suppose, really, that there's some things that you
Yeah.
can't. Because if I listen to the news too much, and I start listening to all about all the various things around the world, you can feel the stress building,
Be overwhelmed.
and like, oh God, but I mean, then I go, right, can I switch that off? I'm going out for a walk, and because I can play my part in, if I think something's not right, I can campaign against it, or I can donate to things, but you can't live in other people's shoes either. You can only
Yeah.
live in your own.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it's how can you create a little ripple of
Yeah,
something
that's
good?
it. So
How do you create little ripples of something good?
Yeah.
And if lots of people create little ripples of something good,
then
it makes a bigger ripple.
it does, yeah.
So it's how can you kind of manage that, but how it's kind of, where does that upset and fear live? And I mean, I remember talking about being afraid of this big red button being pushed and being told, you don't need to worry about that. There's no point in you worrying about that. There's nothing you can do about it. And it just didn't help.
It didn't
To actually, to say, well, what do you mean, or what do you worry about? Who do you worry about? Because I worried about, like, the proximity of where would everybody be if that was to happen, and how would we mind each other, and how would we find each other? So all those very real things that just become focused on concerns. So how do we hear the concerns? Like, really hear
not
them.
just say, don't worry about it. Because it's
Yeah.
like when people say to you, why are you stressed? One of my students, that's what one of the teachers said to her recently when she couldn't do something. Why can't you do it? It's easy. Well,
Yeah.
if it was easy, she'd have had it done, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
or when women are in labor and people say, relax. If it was that easy, they would be relaxed. Just a few, I suppose, placating words isn't the solution, isn't that?
No.
Yeah. You have to have
But it's
strategies and tools.
Yeah, but it's also, what does that look like to you? Or
Yeah.
what's the biggest worry that you have? So actually create a dialogue, because a monologue from don't be worrying about that. Like, if you decide you're going on a diet tomorrow and decide, well, I'm not going to think about food, I'm going to whatever. And somebody said to you, well, just don't think about food. The only thing you can think
Right,
about
it's
is
true.
food, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if somebody says to you, don't worry about that, the only thing you can do is worry about that. Whereas if you can give it a space to have a conversation and to be curious about, well, what does that look like? And you can think some of the stuff out to a more logical conclusion just by simply asking questions. So you don't even have to start to give answers. Well, what does that look like? Okay, well, what would happen then?
Yeah, because sometimes when people get it out of their head,
yeah, and
all
they
of
start
the
to reason
emotion
it out.
attached, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even if they write it, if they journal, or anything that I suppose to get it out of your head helps.
Exactly.
As a first point. And then, like you said, if there's still an issue, then you can investigate further. Why do you feel this way? And I mean, for some people, there's very good reasons why they feel.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. And that's the whole thing about anxiety. Like, what's anxiety? How do we manage anxiety? Like, there's a great wisdom in anxiety. There's a great wisdom in, being anxious about something. That means you've got information that you need to review to see how you're going to manage something.
Yeah.
Like if you were going for a walk and you knew it was kind of in a dangerous spot, or you knew that, kind of the cliff face wasn't so safe there, you might start to have to think about, well, actually, is that a smart thing to do? Should I go there? Is it worth the risk? Is it not worth the risk?
Yeah.
So there's wisdom in the anxiety.
Yeah,
So
it's your
how do
brain
we start
telling
to
you something.
harness? Yeah. So how do we harness that wisdom? How do we share it with each other? How do we have conversations about it that we can support ourselves and not stay at home wrapped in bubble wrap?
Yeah, I know. Because I went for a walk and hoped over the. I'm not a big fan of round the edge cliffs because people have fallen off them. But anyway, it was 2 weekends ago, and it was like a reasonably warm day, not that sunny though. Anyway, there's two ways you can go around the edge of the cliff or over the top. Now I had intended going over the top, but I went the wrong way and I ended up on the edge cliff path. And one of my daughters is very nervous if she's on any of those things. And if I was with her, I wouldn't be nervous because she's nervous. And so I'd know I'd have to stay calm. But I was with my husband and like it doesn't bother him. And I could actually feel the anxiety building. But, obviously I have tools, so I know how to, relax my breathing and keep myself relaxed, because people kept coming towards me. But what I was going, I'll be damned if I'm moving out. I'm staying on the inside head. And halfway around the path, I said to my husband, oh, I can see the other one up there. We'll climb up here onto the other path. Because I said, by the time I'd get all around to the other side, like that's a 2-hour walk, I will, there's only so long you can manage it for before I would never panic, but I just don't like, it's not a comfortable feeling. So I get that analogy that you just mentioned very well, that, it was a dangerous pass. And then I saw people running towards me, and I was going to say to them, honestly, there is no need to be running on a cliff edge. Go to the road or somewhere and run. This is ridiculous. And then I saw someone with a dog. And then my husband, of course, was going on with this. Oh, Amory, you forgot your yellow jacket.
Yeah, but it's back to what you said, Amory. One of the things that you said that I think is key. You said, I have tools.
Yeah.
That's the key.
It is, yeah.
It's not that we're going to find a way in our life that we never have stress and we never have anxiety and we never have difficult things. It's about having a toolbox of tools.
It is, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I gave the eulogy at my mom's funeral, and I mean, beforehand, I was thinking, God, how will I read this? I'll be really upset, blah, blah, blah. But I have a tool that, lets me tap into, my energy and lower my energy dial down and practice release. And I mean, I read the whole thing. I mean, people probably thought, God, she's not very upset, but it was just because I'd used the tools that I have, because to me, there was no benefit to me getting totally overwhelmed, because, I wanted to talk about my mom and talk about what a good person she was. And it's very hard to get that across if you're really, really upset yourself, because all people see is, oh, she's really upset, God love her, but they don't get the whole message behind her. They're focusing on me and my emotion rather than what I wanted to say. And so,
And all those tools are teachable.
oh, they are,
They're
yeah. I mean,
they're
that's
all
what I teach
strategies.
all my
Yeah,
students. So,
exactly. And
and
me too. So
yeah,
if those things are teachable, they're accessible, easily accessible,
I mean,
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
So it's
inside
just
you. You just don't know how to find them sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's back to the idea of being your own best friend.
yeah.
So it's about that
I
inner
like
dialogue that we kind of create about going, like you're saying, if your daughter was with you, you couldn't be nervous. But if you were on your own, you'd be having a conversation with yourself. Don't worry, Anne-Marie,
I would.
she's going to be fine. You're going to get here. Whereas you could be going, oh my God, we're not going to get to the other side. So
I
it's
know, and
what
then you just create
conversation.
chaos. Yeah,
Yeah. So what conversations do you have with yourself?
yeah.
How do you manage that? That's what the strategies are about, really, aren't they?
It
Are
is
the conversations
absolutely.
we have with ourselves and
Yeah.
about finding ways of being your own best friend.
My God. Great to chat to you again, Lucy. And we'll see you all again soon. And hope everybody is enjoying the sunny weather
Yeah.
and try not to get too stressed.
Yeah. Take
Take
care.
care.